first post is from Gwen BD94. Got reprimanded for not leaving my uniforms at work, so now I didn't have any uniforms at home when it mattered. A couple of years ago I was in the Navy, and assigned duties on board a ship. At the start of the story, I was an extremely junior service member, lowest rank in my shop. Typically, on board the ship our usual uniform was coveralls, in our department, and we arrived and left from the ship when in homeport in civilian clothes. Now, we were moving up the river, about 4 hours underway, about an hour driving distance, for a week to unload weapons stores for a training exercise underway coming up later that month. Typically, when leaving the area of the port of record, which we would, for the training exercise, we're also required to have suitable transit uniforms aboard in case we pull into port elsewhere. For this week-long weapons unload, I had no plans to leave the ship, and we weren't leaving our port of record's geographical area, and would be returning to our home berth again before the upcoming trip, so I didn't prep my uniforms to bring on board, seeing no use for them. At the last minute, our medical department scheduled medical appointments on our behalf at a small satellite clinic at the weapons station, with no input of our own, and informed me I'd have a dental appointment while there. I immediately went to my supervisor with the issue, because I had no suitable uniforms for off-ship use on board, and we were required to attend medical appointments in uniform. I get written up for not having my uniforms. Now, there is no specific policies on which types or how many uniforms are required to be on board, but there are specific policies on having sea bag inspections, and what is required to be present for them, so my write-up was for not having an inspection-ready sea bag available. Copy that, makes sense. When we get home that weekend, I move all my military uniforms aboard, bringing a full inspection-ready sea bag to the ship as required, and leaving no uniforms at home. Everything's peachy. Fast forward a few years, and I have commanding officer's approval to miss an upcoming late-minute rescheduled underway due to prior scheduled leave in order to re-enlist. While I'm halfway across the country re-enlisting, my department fails an important inspection for our deployment workups. The inspectors work with the ship's command to reschedule, and they adjust the underway schedule last minute again. Now they're getting underway for a re-inspect the night before my leave ends, and the re-inspection starts the day I return from leave. The inspectors will be ferried to the ship the morning of by water taxi. They ask me to curtail my leave a day early, buy new tickets, and show up, to help with this re-inspect. I inform them that I would prefer not to dole out thousands of dollars of my own money for last-minute changes to travel arrangements because of their failure, but understand if ordered I can financially do so. Since my leave was approved by the CO to miss an underway, I'd like verbiage from the CO that my leave has been rescinded, recalling me. And if I receive such, it'll make me question my dedication to re-enlisting in a Navy that doesn't care about my financial well-being, meaning I'll leave the 6 months earlier than they expected, when I get out of the Navy instead of re-enlist, and won't return with signed re-enlistment papers. They balked, of course, and had me report the day my leave was originally planned to end. They decided I'd catch a ride with the water taxi, and all the senior officer inspectors, for the hour trip to meet the ship. Sounded interesting. The stinger? I asked them what I should wear for the water taxi ride, as all my uniforms were on the ship. They freaked out and asked why all my uniforms were on the ship, naturally. I explained I was ordered to do so by my supervisor and received a counseling chit for not having left all my uniforms on the ship, previously. My options? Some recently cleaned coveralls. I'd take them home for laundry, ensuring I kept 2 pairs on the ship as required for sea bag rules, from before my leave, or my civilian clothes. Why? Because that's what I was told to do the last time a shipboard uniform use issue came up. So yeah, there I was, a junior E5, in civilian clothes, on board a chartered water taxi with a bunch of 04/05/06s in their uniforms, at 5 in the morning, on the way to redo a previously failed inspection. TLDR, thanks you/living among Mormons. Military situation where I didn't have the right uniform available, got written up for not having it, made sure all uniforms were on board and available in future, but later needed a uniform at home and didn't have one due to earlier write-up. Our next post is from Lick a Wall 483. You don't want me to help customers in different department? Then don't be surprised by complaints. About 10 years ago I have applied to work at a retail store selling different tech. It is a rather large chain in the UK and can get pretty busy, especially after 5 p.m. or during holidays/sales. When I applied for a job I wanted to go to computing department as I was very passionate about different builds and had some experience in building my own PC. Instead I was temporarily placed on white goods, fridges, washing machines etc., for training even after I have admitted I know absolutely nothing about them. But no, apparently this knowledge should have been inherited through my genes since I am a girl, so I must know about them and be very good. So I bit my tongue and waited as I needed money and was fresh out of uni. About a few months in I have realized I am not going to be transferred to the computing department, no matter how much I wanted to. My sales were good but the managers wouldn't budge as they were scared I might advise something wrong. It was a start of a school term and the store was getting petty busy. A couple came in wanting to buy a PC for their teenage kid to game on. I wanted to help them as a fellow gamer myself, but got rudely pulled back by my manager and was told unless we are assigned to a specific department, we are not allowed to help customers or advise them. So he fetched another colleague who carried on assisting the parents. As it was quiet in my department I was doing some tidying up around the store and heard the colleague trying to sell the parents one of the Apple PCs saying they will be great for gaming and all professionals use them. At the time we had a bigger commission from Apple brand. Let me tell you they are not the best machines for gaming and if you are into heavier games they are likely not going to run that well or be incompatible with the OS. I don't know what else the colleague said, but the parents believed him and got an iMac for the kid. The manager was very proud of the colleague and told me to use him as an example of a good sale for the store. I have told him I could have topped it and the customer will come back with a return, but was told again not to go to computing department. Cue malicious compliance. A few days later it was a busy day in the store, especially PCs due to back-to-school sale. A few people were off sick due to being overworked so the computing department had like 2 people on the floor, including the work colleague who sold the iMac. The parents came through the door with the PC they got, which usually means something broke down or they want to return it. They saw the guy who sold them the PC and started heading his way. He saw them too and decided it is time to go on lunch, leaving one colleague on the floor in the department. The parents are visibly getting angry and try to go to the till, but after being in the queue are told to catch another colleague from the tech department as we can't process refunds at the till for large items. The parents approach me as I don't have much to do and ask for help. I would be happy to do so, but remembering what the manager said I had to tell them I can't as I am not allowed to do anything with the PC department as it is a store policy. The parents approach more colleagues and keep hearing the same excuse. Obviously they are getting more and more angry, so are other customers who want to buy something but can't since only people in computing department are allowed to sell stuff for computers. They try to grab the only person on the floor, but he is already busy with other customers and can't assist them while the other colleague responsible for the sale signed out for the day and the other is late. In about 20 minutes there's a massive queue by the tills of angry customers demanding to speak to the manager. The poor person at the till has no choice but to fetch the store manager and floor managers due to the amount of angry customers. They are trying to shift the blame on us, other store colleagues, but I mention about what the other manager said about not touching anything in tech department or help customers as we are not authorized and since it is a company policy and we haven't received the training we have to comply. Of course it makes customers even more angry and feel like their time is wasted, resulting in a commotion by the tills and further delays for other customers. I am unsure how the entire situation ended, as I was grabbed by an older lady to help her, but that day we had a lot of complaints on different websites about the policy and store staff refusing to help as it is not their department, and we had a few brainstorming sessions after how to reduce complaints with none of the ideas taken on board. You would hope they would learn something and change the policy, but no. They gave extra training to the people already in computing department and allowed other colleague to sell smaller items like mice, keyboards, consoles, games, printers but not the laptops or PC or VR, resulting in more complaints. Last time I have been there to buy my mom a new laptop, had a voucher, the situation seemed to have stayed the same, as we ended up waiting around 45 minutes for someone to push the sale through. At least I got a chance to complain to the store manager as well, telling him everything I think about that store policy. Our next post is from My Brain is a Rental. I'll call your bluff and take the marks. When I was in high school I wasn't very good at writing essays in English. I knew all the concepts but flushing out a few pages of BS wasn't something I could do in 45 minutes of class time. For a few weeks we had a student teacher completing her prac block. Knowing that kids circle substitute and student teachers like sharks, she didn't take any crap but overcompensated, and more than a few of the kids in my class checked out or outright antagonized her. This just made her more hostile to the smart-ass teenagers we were. For me, check out was when I tried to answer a question about the use of a very specific term in a poem about WW1 soldiers. The author used wheeled chair instead of wheelchair. I put my hand up and gave some interpretation that made sense, and I was always told there's no wrong answers in these sorts of discussions. As a reward for participating I was treated to a fairly harsh "no. You're wrong" noted. So we have to complete an essay on what we've learnt the last few weeks, and the question is along the lines of, how did the author make you feel when reading text? Me, having mentally checked out of English class, not being good at that sort of thing and being the crappy kid I was, wrote out a couple paragraphs summarizing the message of the text and saying that I didn't feel anything when reading it. The next Monday we get our essays back and I've got a May 25th. More than I thought, so those 2 paragraphs must have been pretty good. The prac teacher takes me outside and goes on about how she's disappointed and I could have done better, and how everyone else wrote 2 or 3 pages but I didn't get half a page done. It all seemed pretty disingenuous to me because she hadn't shied away from telling me or anyone else when we were wrong. She asked why I wrote that and I replied that I genuinely didn't have an emotional reaction to it. Why lie? She then says I have the choice to either take the fail or rewrite the essay next class. Okay, I'll take the grade. No point wasting time. Her face dropped a bit and she took a while to reply, really? Are you sure? Yep, I'm no good at this sort of thing, remember. I didn't get it right in class, so why would that change overnight? Defeated, she sent me back to class and went next door for a few minutes. A little while later I was called out again to speak with my actual teacher. She asked me why I didn't think I could do better and what didn't I understand about the question. After talking for a while she said that I will have to retake the essay with a new text and question. One that was worded so I couldn't just say, I didn't. In the end I wrote around 2 pages and passed, just. The prac teacher was there for another 2 weeks or so and I noticed a few things. First, she didn't react with outright contempt when someone gave an answer that wasn't what she wanted. Second, she didn't try to play a game of wits against any more self-sabotaging teenagers. Bonus story about my actual teacher. She was younger and really nice, but now that I'm older I think she was one of those sensitive but naive sorts of people. We had to come up with a TV pilot episode and read it out to the class. One kid read out the first episode of Burn Notice word for word. Top marks and a heap of praise. Our next post is from 0x1337D00D. You want it fast? Fine, but don't cry when it blows up in your face. I work at a big retail chain, where the stockroom is the Wild West and chaos is the norm. We recently got a new supervisor, Sarah, who seems to think she's running the Navy SEALs or something. She's obsessed with speed, constantly on us about how we need to get things done faster. Doesn't matter if it's done right, as long as it's done fast. So one day, during peak restock time when we're drowning in boxes, Sarah storms in with her clipboard and her best, I'm in charge, face. She corners me while I'm halfway through a massive inventory check and says, you're taking way too long with these. Just get through them quickly. We don't have time to check every single item. I try to explain that rushing inventory checks is a bad idea, but she cuts me off with a condescending smile. If you can't speed this up, maybe this job isn't the right fit for you, she says, all smug like she just dropped a bombshell. Unamused face. Alright, Sarah. You want speed? Let's see how fast things can spiral out of control. So, I take her words to heart and decide to follow her instructions exactly. The next day, I'm scheduled for another inventory check. Instead of my usual process where I count everything carefully, I decide to play Sarah's game. I glance at the shelves and make up numbers that seem about right. I don't even bother opening boxes to check if what's inside matches the labels. I fly through the whole process, marking items off like I'm speedrunning a video game. What usually takes me 2 hours, I finish in just 20 minutes. Sarah sees me finish up, and I can see her eyes light up. She walks over, grinning ear to ear. See, that wasn't so hard, was it? If you keep this up, you might even get a little bonus this month, she says, patting herself on the back for her brilliant leadership skills. Face with rolling eyes. Fast forward a week, and the store manager, Mike, calls an emergency meeting. The inventory reports have come back, and they're a total disaster. According to the report, we're missing thousands of dollars worth of products. It looks like we either lost half the stock or we're running some underground black market. Mike's pissed, customers are complaining about out-of-stock items, and the regional manager is breathing down his neck. Mike turns to Sarah and asks her to explain how this could have happened. Sarah, trying to save face, immediately points at the team and says, they must have messed up the counts. They weren't thorough enough. She's throwing us under the bus without a second thought. This is where I decide to strike. I raise my hand and say, actually, I did exactly what Sarah told us to do. She said to skip checking the items and just get it done as quickly as possible. I was just following orders. You could hear a pin drop. Mike slowly turns to Sarah, his expression going from confused to furious. Is this true? He asks, narrowing his eyes at her. Sarah's stammering now, trying to backtrack. Well, I didn't mean to skip it entirely. I just meant to speed it up. But it's too late. The damage is done. Mike's already fuming. So you decided to cut corners on the one thing that affects our bottom line? You do realize we have to do a full recount now because of this mess, right? And that's exactly what happens. The next day, Sarah and a few unlucky team members spend 12 hours redoing the entire inventory check from scratch. The rest of us get to enjoy watching them sweat it out while we handle our regular duties. It's glorious. As they're counting, I make sure to walk by every so often and ask, need any help speeding things up? I could skip a few checks for you if that helps. The look on Sarah's face every time is pure rage mixed with embarrassment. She can't say anything because she knows I'm just doing what she asked for. By the end of it, we've found thousands of dollars in discrepancies. Turns out, rushing through inventory checks leaves a lot of room for errors, who knew? Face with rolling eyes, the regional manager isn't happy and Sarah ends up getting a formal warning. She stops harping on us about speed after that and even tries to be extra nice whenever I'm around. Guess she realized that maybe, just maybe, some tasks shouldn't be rushed. The best part? A couple of weeks later, I get a small bonus for outstanding attention to detail in helping fix the inventory mess. Oh, the irony. Sarah couldn't even look me in the eye when I got the bonus slip. And every time she walks by me now, I just give her a friendly smile and say, don't worry, boss, I'm working as fast as you want.
That's all for today, folks. If you enjoyed, hit that thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe for more wild Reddit stories. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and have an amazing day. Ooh, ooh, ah, ah.